Welcome. On this show, we reveal what those fluid spots mean underneath your car, plus how to avoid costly front-wheel drive repairs, and travel to Detroit and see the cars of the future. But first, tune-ups and how they've changed so tremendously in the last decade. Let's go outside and join Gary, who has a couple of guests.
That's right, Lucille. And to demonstrate, we've invited two mechanics to the show. One's going to do a tune-up on this 72 Nova, and he has the parts for that. And the other's going to do a tune-up on this 87 Buick. Okay, guys, you can go ahead and start your tune-ups. We'll do a status report and keep you posted on how the tune-ups are going throughout the show. Back to you, Lucille.
Thanks, Gary. Now I want to show you how to identify some of those annoying drips you might find under your car occasionally. We're going to start with antifreeze because it's the easiest to identify. If you have good, clear, clean antifreeze, it's going to drip out as just a bright, clear green, sort of chartreuse, you might say. Now, if that antifreeze is kind of murky, a little bit nasty and needs to be changed, it's not going to look the same. It'll kind of lose the green shade and look a little bit rusty. Then going on to engine oil. If you were to leak absolutely new engine oil, it would come out as pure amber, almost clear. Now obviously if it's in your engine, it's not going to come out as pure amber, because as soon as it's been in the engine for just a short while, and what I have here is engine oil that was in an engine for only 200 miles, and I know this absolutely because it was changed here in the shop. It already starts to get dark within 200 miles. You can see that that's definitely engine oil, and it's not, really black yet. And that may confuse you a little bit, because most of the time when you see engine oil leak, because of the detergent quality to the oil, it will look absolutely black like this. Now this was extremely dirty engine oil. I also know why on that, because it came out of my car. Then we move on to the transmission fluid. New, clean, clear transmission fluid is bright red like cherry pop. It's got a dye in it so you can't identify leaks. And if that leaks out, it looks just like that, just like the red cherry pop. And until that fluid starts to get a little bit dirty, it's going to remain looking very red. Then you come to transmission fluid, it's time to change it. It has a yellowish shade to it. See, this is where you have a problem identifying leaks sometimes, because the transmission fluid here that's just a little bit dirty sort of looks like the engine oil that's just a little bit dirty. So you have to be very careful identifying leaks. It's really a problem in the shop sometimes. If we get one like this, we'll spray it clean and watch it just to see where that's coming from. And then we move on to really burn transmission fluid. And this was drained from a transmission that had failed. It was in the shop for rebuilding and had burned out. See, that's gotten dark again, and that could be mixed up with the engine oil again. So you see what kind of problems we in the repair shops have in identifying some of these things. And the last thing that I have here that you might see leak, and we hope you won't, is if you ever had a failure of the cooler in your radiator, where you had water get into your transmission, it'll look like this, just like a strawberry milkshake. So if you ever look in your, if you pull your transmission dipstick out and it looks like a strawberry milkshake, then you can know that there has to be presence of water there. But if you keep an eye on those leaks and identify them, you're certainly not going to mix up your antifreeze with your transmission fluid. But all of these things can be identified, and it's a big help if you know how. In looking at all these different colors, you can see also when you would want to start changing. When the transmission fluid is clear and red, it's fine. But when it starts to get the yellowish tan shade, you should get it out of there. If you're having a leak under your car and you can't identify it, it's not simple like the bright green or the bright red, and you need to have it identified, I would suggest that you put some paper under your car, and after the car has dripped on it enough that you get a sample, then take it to your technician. It'll be a big help to him in identifying it.
Coming up, the war technology coming soon to your dealer showroom. Stay tuned.
Hi, Carmel.
Hi, Lucille. How are you?
Fine. This is Carmel Nickens, and you're driving a Shadow. What year do we have here?
1991.
Okay, what's your problem?
Well, I'm having a problem sometimes, but not all the time. It's lazy and it hesitates sometimes, but then all of a sudden when I'm driving, it sort of kicks into gear.
Okay, does this happen when you first take off every time?
Yeah.
Okay, but one time it's fine, and the next
And then the
time
next
it's
time
not.
it's not.
Uh-huh. And when it goes to, doesn't want to move, it just is like lazy.
It's very sluggish, it hesitates. So what's the
well, see, on this particular type of car, I would guess that probably you'd have a governor hanging up in the transmission. And what that means to you is that when you come to a complete stop, the transmission doesn't drop back to low.
What's a governor?
It controls the shift points on it, automatic transmission. But see, it's got a little valve in there. And if it doesn't fall back into place when you come to a stop, you go to take off and it's still in high gear, but as soon as you give it gas a little bit, it will drop down really quickly. That's when you get the jerk. And then it shifts okay after you do that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, what I think we'll do is have Pete take a look at that fluid, because most of the time with this car and this type of problem, that fluid may look a little bit metallic, because there's something that happens with these that ends up sticking valves, and that's why it's erratic. Part of the time it does it, maybe it'll stick and then free itself, and the next time it sticks again.
Is this serious?
Well, it could be. What's that look like here? Yeah. I tell you what, Carmel, I think we ought to pull this in and pull that transmission pan down.
Okay.
If you want to leave it, what we'll do is drive it until we get the condition. It happens more frequently after you drive it a while.
Right, I'd really
Okay.
like you to drive it to see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, before we do anything, we'll drive it and get the condition. And then we'll drop the transmission pan down.
Okay.
And at that time, we'll be able to determine if that's what is happening with it.
Okay.
So if you want to leave it now, that'll be fine.
Great. Take it
Okay.
in. Thanks,
We'll
Lucille.
just keep this car here, Pete.
Good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Along with cribs, high chairs, and infant toys, parents have another important purchase to consider before bringing baby home: the child car seat. Here's a checklist of some important things to consider. A child car seat can be a pretty expensive item, ranging in costs from $30 to over $100. Seats can be divided into three main categories: infant only, convertible, and booster. One way to save is to choose a convertible seat, which can be used from newborn to age 4, a 2-in-1 seat. Remember, before you buy that child car seat for your newborn, be sure it's versatile. Why would a car maker ruin a brand new car by driving it off a cliff? Well, promotion and sales, of course. Here's how Chrysler promoted its 1934 Airflow. Fasten your seatbelts.
Oh, but that was over too quickly to see anything. Let's watch it again, in slow motion. Again it takes off, landing with its full weight squarely on its nose. You'd expect it to be crushed like an eggshell, and a lesser car would. Another flip-flop, nearly 2 tons of automobile flung down on its back as though by some mighty hand. No car ever was built to stand up under such terrific abuse. Not even an army tank would be expected to take this punishment. And what does it prove? Just this: the car...
I'll never forget the first new car I ever purchased. A Pontiac GTO, 1966, burgundy with black and beautiful. I waited weeks for it to come in. But can you imagine ordering a new car on your personal computer? Or having a satellite locate your stolen car in just seconds? These are some of the new technologies that are being discussed and are even an actuality for some car owners. The features predicted to be widely available before the turn of the century read like a list of top-secret military devices. Many, in fact, were used by U.S. forces in Operation Desert Storm. Things like all-weather vision enhancement, sonar detection, emergency messaging, and intelligent speed control.
The cars of the 21st century are going to be very exciting for customers in terms of both basic product and feature value. We've got probably 1,000 different features concepts under investigation right now.
Jerry Conover of the Ford Motor Company is one of the people involved in the development of high-tech gadgets for cars.
We've spent 25 years trying to find ways to protect car and truck occupants after the crash. with seat belts, airbags, and so on. But suppose we could keep the crash from happening in the first place. Things like driver assist to make the driver more alert or to improve reaction time.
Here are some of the driver assist features currently on the drawing boards. Sonar Detection. This device reads a transmitted sound wave and triggers an alarm when a car in reverse nears an object. Sonar waves also scan driver blind spots at the side and send a lighted display to the car's side view mirrors.
Think about cruise control. It's something we sell a lot of in the United States to make driving easier. The driver doesn't have to have his foot on the gas pedal all the time. But suppose we can add a radar sensor that would continuously measure the distance to the car ahead as well as the closing rate, how fast your car is catching up with the car ahead.
This feature is called Intelligent Speed Control. Your car's computer device locks onto the car ahead and makes adjustments in your speed to maintain the safest separation between you and nearby traffic.
If we can improve a driver's braking reaction time on the freeway by half a second, we think we could eliminate between 40 and 60% of rear-end collisions. Take that to the insurance company.
Here are some of the other cutting-edge technologies in development by Ford and others. Emergency messaging. This is a transmitter in your car which sends a distress call to a satellite orbiting 24,000 miles overhead. The signal is relayed to a customer service center where a dispatcher reads an on-screen display which spells out the owner's name, car, address, and exact location of the vehicle. Police or paramedics are called immediately. The whole process takes a matter of minutes. Sounds expensive, right? It no doubt will be, but Jerry Conover of Ford says price isn't the only measurement.
Although as we add features, the relative price of the car may go up, and as inflation increases, it'll go up. But in terms of value, we expect the car buyer is going to see a lot more real value for the dollars paid.
Does your car have front-wheel drive? Then stay tuned and learn how to save money. right, now we're checking the progress of the two mechanics doing the tune-ups. We now go over to the older car, mechanic number 1. He has already, in this amount of time, replaced the points, he has replaced the cap and the rotor, and he's working now currently on the spark plugs. Now as we go to the newer car, mechanic number 2, he got off to a rough start today, and he actually bogeyed on the first hole. Mechanic number 2 has replaced the air filter, the gas filter, and he is now working on the PCV valve. It's been quite an interesting day here today. We'll keep you posted and continue to follow this dramatic event. Back to you, Lucille.
We're going to talk about front-wheel drive. The first American front-wheel drive was the Cord back in the 30s. And then General Motors came along in 1966 with the Olds Toronado. By the late 70s, the trend was started, and it's predicted that in 1995, 95% of all automobiles sold in this country will be front-wheel drives. But first, let's talk about powertrain. Powertrain means engine and transmission. And then in the rear-wheel drive cars, we go drive shaft back to the rear axle assembly, rear wheels. Now with front-wheel drive, again we start with engine and transmission, and many times this engine is set sideways. But then when the power comes from the transmission, it goes through some drive axles here. You can see these coming out. And on each end of this drive axle, there's a little rubber accordion-type boot. Now that boot is going to cover a CV joint, which is constant velocity. And these axles have actually brought a whole new series of problems for cars, these front-wheel drives. These rubber boots, which are like accordions, as I said, they fit over the CV joint. And as you can see here, they're little ball bearings and all sorts of interesting looking parts. Those have to be in grease at all times. And the only thing that retains the grease on those is the boot. Now, boots don't normally just wear out. What happens is you cause the problem by bottoming out or something. The slightest little rip will allow that grease to leak out. And the first thing you know, you have a clicking sound around a bend. And if you ignore that also, you're going to break an axle and get towed in. So it's very important that you have those checked once in a while to make sure that they're okay. When you buy a new boot, it comes with new grease so that the CV joint is repacked and will be completely okay again with the grease. If you don't do that and we'll go back to where we started. If you pay for the boot and catch it early, what you're going to spend is probably $75. And if you ignore it and it does break, a repair to an axle would start around $150 and then could end up with a replacement cost of about $300. So it really pays for you to maintain these very well. One other maintenance item on front-wheel drives: rotate your tires very faithfully, because front-wheel drives do wear tires out quicker, and before you know it, you're going to have 2 good tires and 2 bad tires. Now, there are a few advantages to front-wheel drive. Because they're designed for fuel economy, these compact cars use less gasoline and therefore produce fewer emissions. With the weight of the complete powertrain over the front wheels, front-wheel drive cars have much better traction, and they're much better in the snow. Don't go away. We're going to be right back with the results of the tune-ups. welcome back. There are several factors involved in good tire wear: proper inflation, proper rotation, and good driving habits. Now I'm going to show you how to rotate those tires. But instead of using tires, I have some friends here. Let's get them together. Now what we're going to do is rotate just as if we were tires. Now as soon as I say rotate, I want the front tires to go to the rear and the rear tires to go to the front, but crossing over. Okay, let's rotate. Tires, you did very well. There's one last thing that you want to do while those tires are off, and that is check them for stones, maybe a nail, anything like that, and also look very closely at the tread wear, because if you see any uneven wear, you want to take them out and check the front end, see if you need an alignment or something. Just look for any stones, and if you see them, dig them out. It's going to help in the long run. If you take very good care of these tires, they're going to last you a long time.
Well, Lucille, I know America is waiting now for the results of the tune-up. Well, we're at a point now where we've actually completed the tune-up on the newer car. That's the '87 Buick over there. We're not so happy to report that the tune-up is not actually finished on the 1972 Nova. So kind of as you indicated, it actually took longer there. The Nova, still mechanic number 1, needs to actually set the timing on that and is yet to actually adjust the carburetor too. So there you have undeniable proof, ladies and gentlemen, that the older car did indeed take longer than the newer car. Hey, listen, before we end the show, let's bring our mechanics out and meet them, huh? We've been keeping them in a soundproof booth backstage. Let's bring out mechanic number 1. This is Adam. Adam, thanks for your help today with the tune-up on the Nova, and also mechanic number 2. This is Pete, who is the mechanic on the other car. Do you notice a similarity here between these two? Well, actually, these are our two twin carburetor mechanics, Pete and Adam. Hey, guys, really, thanks for the tune-ups, okay? All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching the show. You guys ready? Okay.